We can do whatever we want because we swing easy, free hands, and you just let it fly. The truth is, when you have what John just defined I call it the scratch-off lottery ticket, right? We won. We didn't do anything but participate and scratched it off, and all of a sudden, first video went viral. Now you are in a much more comfortable position versus if we had pre-orchestrated this and said, all right, let's become influencers and let's bring to the audience of the world this dynamic. That's still to this day something that we do authentically and organically. I'm his father and I'm not always his best friend, right? That's the dynamic of a father and a son.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the savvy eye can pick up on that in our videos. Our true followers from the beginning, they can see when dad gets annoyed. And truth is, sometimes I get annoyed.
In the time it takes to age a single bottle of extra añejo tequila, John Rondy Sr. and his son, John Rondy Jr., went from randomly filming how to make a Manhattan cocktail to becoming one of the most popular spirits influencers in the world, working together as Johnny Drinks. They've got nearly 5 million followers and subscribers, the terrific On the Rocks podcast, which you should absolutely listen to, a merchandise line, their own bourbon, and a ton of brand deals and endorsements. And in many ways, they are the textbook definition of a spirit guide and are like the inspiration for this entire show. But the question I have is probably the question you have is how did they do that? And why did they do that? And how has their lives changed since the initial TikTok breakout? What's next for Johnny Drinks? We'll find out in this episode of The Spirit Guides, the show about the entrepreneurial journeys of the world's top booze influencers. I'm your host, Tequila J. Baer. Fans of the show are known as the Sippers, and all sippers out there know that every show can be found at thespiritguides.info, and the videos are always at thespiritguides.video. The show is sponsored by our pals at Love Scotch, the premier online shop for scotches, obviously, bourbons, tequila, and a lot more. With an extensive collection curated from all over the globe, Love Scotch brings you the world's finest distilleries to your front door, or your back door if that's your thing. Whether you're a seasoned enthusiast or just starting your own journey into the world of spirits, Love Scotch has something for everybody. Now check this out. This is one of the things I like best about them. Shipping is always $19.95, regardless of the number of bottles. So if you stock up, the shipping becomes a really good deal. That does not apply to Hawaii, Alaska, or Bulgaria or whatever, obviously. But sippers, visit lovescotch.com. That's lovescotch.com. And the show is produced by Content 10X. Go to content10x.com for your content creation and production needs. They are the best. And now, here are the Spirit Guides, John and Johnny. Gents, how are you?
All right, doing great.
Crazy, man. That was the best intro I've ever heard.
Thanks very much. For sippers that don't follow you guys yet, Johnny, can you talk about the very sort of random, unplanned nature of your start and sort of, it was almost like an instant overnight success, which doesn't always happen, but it did in your case.
Yeah, and again, thank you for having us on. That was incredible. Just like you said, right, it was unexpected. It wasn't planned. It was February 2020. We were going out to eat, so it was right before quarantine hit. My dad had, I think a couple months prior to, been at a bar where he saw somebody smoke Manhattan, and he was like, I want to try this before we go out. And I was like, why don't I just try to film you and see what happens? He makes this smoke Manhattan. It looks pretty cool. We go to dinner. I check my phone. It's going, what I thought was viral at the time, maybe a couple 100,000 views and all these crazy comments coming in. It was all brand new to us, so it was just funny. We were with our family. We were already getting hate comments, so that was, we got pretty desensitized to that early on. And then the next day we checked it and it was doing pretty well again. And, now a couple weeks pass. I say to my dad, hey, let's just keep making content. Who cares? And, maybe it can turn into something, because I've always been enamored by the space. I knew how much, I guess, money these creators were making and how businesses were made just from making content. And so I figured, why not? And then especially when quarantine hit, we had nothing else to do. And this was a point in time where things were going parabolic. We were, I would consider, like not the first early wave of TikTokers, because you have the people that were on like Musical.ly before, Vine.
sure.
As soon as they got on the apps, it was millions of followers, right? We were like the second wave, you know. So as soon as we started posting, it was off the races. We could do anything, and people were watching our stuff. So that worked out pretty well. 6 months in, again, I picked the name Johnny Drinks because I don't know, he made a drink. You know, he wasn't a bartender at the time. We just had, I guess, I didn't really care for like these crazy exotic cocktails yet. I was sort of fresh out of college, so anything other than like a Tito's and Club, I was pretty unfamiliar with. So it was cool to learn from him. And then he was learning side by side from other videos and going to bars, things like that. So fast forward to now, we realized, okay, we could diversify our content because the drinks was just like, I guess, the carrot dangling in front of their faces, but they're really coming for the father and son relationship. So there was a day, I vividly remember, we were shooting YouTube videos, and my dad was upstairs, like, let me show you how to shine a shoe. And I was like, I don't want to film you shine a shoe. Like, why would I care about that? Never shine a shoe in my life. And my videographer was like, you know, just go film and see what happens. And that is actually, I think, one of our like most popular videos to date. So
17 million. 17 million.
Whatever.
Crazy. Something like that. Who knows? Who's counting?
Yeah. So that did pretty well. It just opened up for us. Like, okay, people care about the father and son stuff too. So we started doing more so dad advice, you know, tying ties and, like we said, shining shoes and fixing cars and whatever, you name it. That's where our impact was, or for us, like where we care the most. You know, making drinks is great, entertaining you for the day, but if we could teach, and if he can teach a son or, you know, an older or younger male that doesn't have a father in his life how to tie a tie, I mean, you could ask him when he gets that on the streets, that's the most fulfilling thing for both of us. So it's expanded into a brand that we can kind of do, I don't want to say whatever we want, but we're in a really good spot with, I guess, what we can do with content.
Well, we can do whatever we want because we swing easy, free hands, and you just let it fly. The truth is, when you have what John just defined in I call it the scratch-off lottery ticket, right? We won. We didn't do anything but participate and scratched it off, and all of a sudden, first video went viral. Now you are in a much more comfortable position versus if we had pre-orchestrated this and said, all right, you know, let's become influencers and let's bring to the audience of the world this dynamic. That's still to this day something that we do authentically and organically. I'm his father, and I'm not always his best friend, right? That's the dynamic of a father and a son.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the savvy eye can pick up on that in our videos. Our true followers from the beginning, they can see when dad gets annoyed. And truth is, sometimes I get annoyed. Like sometimes I don't want to do a video, or sometimes, you know, we're calling it in, and that's the realistic place from which we don't try to cover up or hide. And so anyway, in this social media Fugazi world, there is a thread of common truth, and we try to be as, again, real as we can without being insulting or, you know, certainly, you know, in any way, shape, or form, you know, bringing down the craft of creating this content.
It's one of the things I like the best about your content is that it is, by standards of content creators today, somewhat underproduced, right? It's not super fancy. It's not super lit. There's not, you know, you're not running 3 cameras. Like it's not a mini movie. It's just a pretty natural, organic. It feels almost like a documentary, not like a production. And I think that's one of the things that makes your content so approachable. Johnny, you were telling me earlier that's kind of a conscious choice, or at least an evolution of your own thinking in terms of what works.
Totally. I mean, I think what happens, especially with creators, or for us at least, you always want to match outcome to effort, right? So when things are going really well and it's really easy, you're like, oh shit, I got to start working harder because this isn't going to last. And so, all right, Dad, the phone isn't enough. I got to buy a camera, and I bought a camera, and now I got to learn how to use this camera, and I got to start editing on Premiere. And so I chopped up videos and I hired editors. And what happened was it was almost immediate, the response of like, hey, this isn't what we're used to. This doesn't feel as authentic. You're changing. And so it did the exact opposite of what we wanted it to do. And I think that's where I struggle the most with like this constant debate of how much to try and then not try at the exact same time, right? It's a very tough balance because you don't want to just not try, right? If I had a shitty angle and you really couldn't see what he was doing, and that wouldn't work out either. So I do think we found a really good flow that is sort of timeless, like when you expect to hear me say, "Hey, Dad," or you expect to see me slap a case of seltzers at him, you know what's going to come, and you don't have to worry or be confused. Whereas if you change things up and we're doing crazy effects, you kind of lose that.
Johnny, it sounds like you picked up on pretty quickly that this could be a thing, right? That this could be an actual business, not just like a fun family hobby. And you all treated it like a business pretty early on, as I understand it. Like, and John, did you kind of see that too, or did that take kind of convincing from Johnny? Be like, oh no, this isn't just like, hey, we have a few viral videos. Like this could be like a revenue stream of some real importance.
Jay, great question. And I remember, so where I'm sitting right now, okay, John and I had a conversation. I was in this spot in my basement, and I said to John, well, what do you think? What's the direction? And he's like, well, it's a business where you can monetize this, you can do this, you can do that. And I giggled to myself. All right. I really did. And I giggled because I'm like, what are we doing? We film something in the basement, and it's COVID still. Okay. So when he starts talking about it being a business, I'm like, come on, it's not. I said, I'll tell you what. All right, John, I said exactly this. I said, I want all the swag, all the free shit that comes. I'll take that. You take whatever money you can make from it, have at it. I said, I'll worry about it. I'll worry about it really when you get to like 6 figures. If you ever get to 6 figures, just let me know. Well, guess what?
Did you renegotiate the deal?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was interesting because as soon as that happened, I was like weird because we talked about this and all you wanted was the merch. He's like, yeah, hold on. That's all I did.
Right. Because I thought you were going to like,
move that shit.
I thought you were going to like cap out. I thought you were going to like tap and cap out. And then all of a sudden it was like, we went through that. I was like, all right, hold on a second. Maybe we should really reevaluate this a little bit.
Yeah. Now everybody's got their own attorneys, right? Different story. John, did you, are you still doing any mortgage stuff, or are you all the way out now?
So I didn't leave the mortgage business. The mortgage business left me.
Yeah.
All right? And a lot of people that are in that world feel the same way. The good news for me is I have this now. The good news for me, I worked 30 years and I ran a high profile team for a big bank and for a lot of years. And listen, the things that I say as advice to young people is what I've done. I preach, it's not what you make, it's what you save, right? It's not what you do and decisions you make how to invest, but it's truly where you make those decisions on what you're going to end up treating yourself to. So knock on wood, 30 years done. I'm good. I'm cool. I don't even know that I would say to you sitting here, and every time I do this, I go to LinkedIn. I just went to LinkedIn last week, and I'm like so tempted to change my profile. And I must have done this. I'm telling you, I must have done this 10 times, Jay, where I go change it from mortgage expert, whatever the heck it is, mortgage leader, says mortgage leader, and I want to change it to influencer. Then I'm like, I don't know. Am I? I guess I am. But no, I know. But I'm like, what? Do I do that?
I know. It feels super weird, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people would say, John, that you're sort of like the dad of TikTok, and teaching people these lessons that either their dad didn't teach them or they didn't listen to their dad because nobody listens to their own dad. Like, how does it? No, for sure. How does it feel to have that responsibility, or does it feel like a responsibility?
Yeah, it does feel like a responsibility. And the contrast is you hit the nail on the head. No one wants to listen to their own dad. So John, love him. He will take what he wants, and at other moments just say, you don't know what you're talking about, Dad. Although to the fresh set of eyes, it's like, wow, what doesn't this guy know? And it's not that I know everything. I know a little bit about a lot of things. And that's what experience affords me. That's what makes it easy for me to show people how to shine shoes, how to make a bed, how to do a tie, how to change it, how to check the oils and the fluids in your car. These are things that I don't go on YouTube to look that's how I grew up. And it's a badge of honor when we have people come up to us and young men say to me, you taught me how to make a tie and I made it for my wedding. I'm like, you did what? You watched my video how to make a tie for your wedding? I'm like, it's unbelievable. So that I can't do enough of. What gets in the way today of John and I doing that is two things. One, he's physically not in the same house anymore. So the things that were spontaneous, like, hey, John, come up, I'm going to show you how to shine shoes. Well, he's not in the living room anymore, right? Or, hey, John, there's a flat, this has happened several times where we've had flat tires in the driveway and we've changed them, but he's not here to watch me do it. And that's okay because he's moved on and he's living, they can't stay in your house the rest of their lives and they shouldn't. But so that's one thing that challenges and affects us to do the dad advice thing. The other is we're getting paid to post about certain brands. So those are the priorities, right? And so every once and again, I do remind him and I ask him, actually, John will tell you, right? I plead with him, come on, let me show you how to do this. Just humor me. Let me do it. Because someone's going to have a good takeaway and it might make their day a little easier. So that's all.
I'm glad you mentioned your friends. Johnny, what impact has all this had either on your relationship with your dad or your relationship with your friends or other people in the family? Because all of a sudden, like, this is a whole different world, and does your life feel differently with your own friends and the rest of your family? How does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess a pretty complicated question. So I'll start with my dad. It's tough because you don't know if life is going to change anyway. You know what I mean? From 24 to 28, and I'm moving out of the house, and so what I noticed in the beginning, I try to reflect on when I was 23, 24, starting this, how close my dad and I were. And we were tight, but we wouldn't hang out. Like you said, he was my dad. He wasn't my best friend. We were not the guys, actually, ironically, that we're going to the bar together and getting drinks. And that just wasn't who we were. Yeah. Not to say that's a bad thing at all, but we hang out all the time now. You know what I mean? And so I don't think I would ever be hanging out with him as much. And transparently, I probably would be doing something very, very different and be very against hanging out with him at all. You know what I mean? Because I know a thing, and now I'm 28 and I'm going to show you that I could get what I got, what I deserve and all this stuff. So great that I'm able to do it with him. But I will say in the beginning, I definitely did struggle with this constant, because we're both type A guys and we're competitive. And so I always want to prove myself to him and vice versa. And so I was always I want to prove that I can find my own success, because he was a successful man. And then it was frustrating because all the success that I was quote unquote finding with Johnny Drinks was because of him. And it was also lending him more success. So I'm I can't get away from my own shadow at this point.
Nope.
I accepted that fact. And I was you know what a blessing it is that I'm able to do this with my dad. Yeah, I'm able to start new things and build brands and businesses with him, and I'm not going to fight it anymore. Will I do my own thing once in a while for sure, and so will he, but that doesn't negate the fact that what we have going is truly special, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else at this point in time. But in regards to my family relationship, I think the whole family has kind of been accepting of the business, you know what I mean? So if they're in the house and we're filming, they respect that. So the family has adapted and they are part of the brand a little bit. The cousins, everybody loves it. But same thing, they didn't know what it was until they really knew what it was. And now they have people saying oh, can I meet your cousin or your uncle? And they're like,
right.
Fuck.
And especially on TikTok, where the tone and the tenor can be a little different. YouTube's even worse. There's comments that can be pretty harsh and a little bit even out of left field, I find on occasion. And I'm much better about it now than I used to be, and you probably are as well. But talk a little bit about how you navigate that, especially in the early days. You're like, wait a second, we're just trying to help people make a better cocktail or help people, learn how to tie a tie, and you're like yelling at us and like we're doing this for your enjoyment, right? Like, what do you want? It can be a little bit of a sad time, I think, reading those comments.
Yeah, I mean, again, in the beginning, it's weird. It's like, why are you even yelling at? What did I do? I mean, we made a video. Why are you so mad in the comments? And so, yeah, the things that don't upset us are like you don't know what you're talking about. These guys suck and blah blah blah. When things get personal, it's just like, what's going on in your life that you feel so terrible? And everybody says the same thing, right? They're the ones going through it. And look, if you have to let it out by calling us assholes or pretentious, great, man. It's not going to bother me. What I will say does mentally mess me up, and I'll just like transparently admit that, in the ebbs and flows of content when engagement isn't good and people notice it and they call it out, I'm like, fuck, man, that stinks. You know what I mean? When they're like, oh man, the views are down, huh? Or you guys got to really, you really have to make a bed to try to, the skit is ending type of thing. And I'm like, shut up. So I will try to stay away from, but I do use those as a little bit like a fuel, I guess. Stuff like that you learn from too. There's feedback in the comments if you can kind of muster the strength to actually learn from it. So that's normally what we do.
Jay, it's interesting. So that's the first time, maybe the first time, John, I've ever heard you say what piece of it bothers you, right? And I'm not surprised by that because I understand that. Yeah, that's okay. Well,
you'll say, man, this video sucked, huh?
Yeah.
Video flopping. I'm like, shut up, dude. Like, what? I know the numbers. I see it.
Right. But when I see, Jay, that comment, May is Mental Health Month. I think of it from a different vantage point. I feel so horrible. And you could say whatever you want about me. You're not gonna make me cry and not want to get up to go live my life. You're just not. But what makes me pause is that person that's saying some of the things, I feel like they're going through something. And so I'll try and bring some humor into it. Or I'll try and say, hey, be nice. I'm just trying to be nice. Just be nice. Let's try to find another way of saying it. Whatever I can do, because I'm sensitive to that. And that's what you're supposed to be doing as an adult.
You can almost do anything for any brand if you just kind of shoot the video the right way. Whereas me, for example, is a much narrower set of potential partners just because our content's tighter. What's the most sort of bizarre or weird kind of brand offer or approach you've had?
Yeah, tell them, John. We got one right now. You want me to consider?
I can't say it, but
yeah, I say it, but it's not comfortable for me. And I don't even know if I want to.
Yeah, it's not closed, I guess. But
yeah, right.
I like.
So, we don't know yet. I don't know if there's. I'll tell you what. We know what's uncomfortable is THC. Okay, can't do it. It's not. I don't do it. I told him, nope. Send the money back. Send the product back. Give it away. I just won't do it. Personally, the spectrum, to your point, Jay, of where we are going to be able to help other products and brands is pretty wide. But there's a lot of things that I just can't. I'm the age I am. I feel like I could say no. Like I've said no many times before. And one of the beauties of getting old is understanding it's okay to say no. And you don't have to say yes to everybody. You don't have to please everybody. And better to say no short and quick so that people know where you stand. So they move on and you move on. Why belabor the point? So there's a lot of products that THC being one of them, cannabis being one of them, that I won't do. I can't do. I don't use it. So how am I going to say it's good? Right? Or whatever.
Like, at the end of the day, it is a business and you got to make your money. And there's brands that you got to suck it up with, right? A big name brand, I won't even mention names because some of them are really nice to work with. Others just are a pain in the ass. And people know, you got to swallow your medicine as the consumer. And you got to swallow your medicine as like, look, I know if I post 3 ads in a row, my content for the next potential month could be. And it's so crazy because I hate overthinking stuff like the algorithm and let me try to find the perfect time to post. But it's like clockwork, dude. Like I recently just made the mistake of like from scheduling standpoint had to do like back to back to back ads, and my content since then hasn't been. It's all the same, right? The content's all the same, but the engagement has just been drastically different. And it's one of those things where you got to accept it. You know what I mean? You keep moving. You can't get upset about it. I've only learned that because I've had to go through it so many times. But, you know, it is what it is. And so now it's like, I think actually, like you said, Gary Vee before talks about what it was like, give, ask, you know, something like that. So if all of our videos are gives and then the one ask is, hey, sit down and watch this ad, that's great as long as the gives are way more than the asks. So, yeah, it's
right.
That's how
Your point.
We work with and how we organically incorporate it to a video.
John, you've been doing this for a long time. You're 58 years old. None of this existed when you or I, for example, were Johnny's age. I love your take on where do you see the role of influencers and brands evolving in the future? Because all of this is relatively new.
Yeah, well, this is the tip of the iceberg. Truth is, and John knows this. You know, I have some very good friends that are heavy in the advertising space. Like they are the top of the top. I go to Cannes, France for the advertising, you know, summit. I've been to countless other places where it is all ad driven, from artificial intelligence, those companies that do that and curate it. And I'm in that world. So this piece with my son in the social media place is one thing, but my friends are they're up there and they share with me a lot of things. And John and I have benefited by those relationships in that, you know, we've gotten invited to New York City and we've gone and we've participated in their company functions because they want us to share the story. They want us to give some insight because they want to learn. They're not just interested in just listening. They're really going to apply some of what we're sharing with them to their clients to be able to introduce, if it's not us, someone like us for that advertising digital content space, right? So it's a tip of the iceberg. And that's reinforced by what I would think are those people in the ad space that know best when they, again, share with me over just a casual dinner or a round of golf. They're like, yeah, you guys, just keep doing what you're doing. You just keep going because it's coming. There's plenty of other opportunities. It's still the most reasonable and inexpensive way for a brand to get their name out there. The challenge in the liquor space, the problem with it, because of the age demographic, because you can't age gate and control, well, what is the average age? Is it 21.5 or is it 20? And if it's not 21.5, you know, the big Anheuser-Busch, they're not going on TikTok. You know, there's that whole other. So when TikTok specifically, whatever the fate is of TikTok, right? 6 months, 5 months from now, whatever the government has in store, whatever the American business people who are heavily vested in TikTok end up doing and persuading and moving, right? We know, Jay, that there's a lot of posturing going on, a lot of political stuff going on, right? When the dust settles, well, where does TikTok really end up being? And wherever it ends up being, that's fine. We're going to still keep doing what we're doing. But we're going to see, because there's going to be a time where all of a sudden the big guys are going to be like, yeah, we'll pay them. Sure. Here, hold the Budweiser. Here, hold the Corona, hold this. And it'll come from them, not from by way of another agency that's been subcontracted, and they can always kind of hide behind, well, no, we didn't hire them. No, we had, unfortunately, a little sub agency worked that out, and you know, it wasn't on the radar. Although, you know what I mean. That's just all part of the navigating through it all.
Yeah, brands are going to spend money whatever is the most efficient way to spend money. right? And as you said, this is in many cases the most efficient way. It's just a little less controllable, which is what's keeping it slightly suppressed. But those things are all going to get solved. Last question for you, and we'll let you go. I'll let you guys maybe each take it briefly. If you could sip a Manhattan or anything else, let's just say Manhattan, since that's how you started, with anybody in the world, who would it be?
Alive or
Sure, let's let whatever you want.
Dead is the word you were looking for.
I know it's dead. I knew what. Really, it's alive or dead, or it actually goes dead or alive is how it's
Right.
really.
Oh, exactly. All right. Let's get to the question.
So you want to go first, John?
Okay.
Or you want me to give you time? I'll go first.
You said dead or alive, right?
Sure. Or alive or dead. Yeah. One, whichever.
Or alive or not alive, I think is how we say it.
Alive or not alive. We're gonna change the catchphrase, the cliched phrase of dead or alive.
I mean, like, my mind goes to like a Frank Sinatra right now just because of like what we've done. I would have never answered saying that 4 years ago because I got introduced to the music really from what we've been doing on TikTok because of him. So like I think that would just be like a really cool full circle ending, quote unquote, for us to be able to sit down with him. But realistically speaking, I mean, look, sitting down with Dana White was probably one of my answers, and we were able to do that. So that opportunity was great. The Rock, Kevin Hart, these are guys that Matthew McConaughey. Just I think the basic answers that every 28-year-old guy is probably going to give you.
I love it. That's funny. That's good. Well, since you said Sinatra, I would agree with that. But there is one person that is deceased, and you're going to say I pulled this out of left field, but it's not. You said Sinatra, so my second person that's not around that I would love to sit down and just hear perspective from and have a drink with it is Martin Luther King, and I'm more compelled today to want to hear what he has gone through, what they did, and the thing that's just something that I think about truly. Not all the time, but unfortunately, I watch what's going on in this world and the protests and the garbage that is occurring. But that's one person that I would say I would like to have known to have a conversation with. The other, alive, or pick one. I mean, The Rock. Jeez, I would love to. He's super hot right now. He has so much by way of the space that we're in because of his tequila and because of his personality and just, come on, the guy's bigger than life. And so it would definitely be someone, in that stratosphere of a category.
I think you can pull that off very easily. And that's I think that's just a DM away from making that happen. Yeah.
I think I've DM'd him. He still doesn't return my DMs, Jay. I've DM'd. He doesn't return my
All right. So we will one day.
We'll work on that. We know him a little bit better because of the tequila stuff. So I'm gonna take that as a personal challenge. We're gonna make that happen. We got it. All right, on the clock. We're gonna make it happen. Well, we're gonna wind down the clock right here, guys. I really appreciate it. What an awesome chance to speak with you, and huge congratulations on what you're doing. Keep it up. Don't let the haters get you down, man. And we'll do it together. Sippers, that was John and John. You can find them on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. Look for Johnny Drinks. Check out the podcast On the Rocks. Go to Spirit Guides, go to thespiritguides.info or thespiritguides.video for links and show notes. Big thanks to our friends at lovescotch.com for their support. Check out their extraordinary curated collection of spirits. They'll send it right to your house. Shows produced by Content10x.com, whom we love and recommend for all of our digital content. I am Tequila J. Baer. You can make mine a double. See you next time on The Spirit Guides.
Cheers, everybody. See ya.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, Jay.